Dajjal is fabricated is this, that it shows there is a development of it over the ages. They say if you go to the books of Hadith, Imam Malik, the Muwatta of Imam Malik, of course, he compiled that Muwatta. He died in the year 179 of the Hijrah, 179, and the Muwatta contains only 4 hadith about the Dajjal. And then there is Abdul Razzaq. There's the Musannaf, a compilation of a hadith by Abdul Razzaq, who died in the year 211 Hijri. So from 179 to 211 Hijri. They usually, of course, talk about the deaths of the scholars, which year they died in. That's a way to understand, in what age they lived. And of course, the most that they have accomplished is, just before the time of their death, right? So if you know when they died, then you know the earlier years, maybe 10, 15 years, 20 years, and so on. Before that, these are the times they accomplished, all of the things that they had accomplished. So from 179, the death of Imam Malik, to the death of Abdul Razzaq, who compiled his Musannaf in 211 Hijri. In his compilation of hadith, you have 23 hadith mentioned. So from 4 hadith in the Muwatta to 23 hadith in the Musannaf. And then there is another Musannaf, compilation of hadith by Ibn Abi Shayba, and he died in the year 235. So from 211 to 235. And his compilation of hadith or Musannaf has 42 hadith in it. So from 4 to 23 to 42 hadith. And then they mentioned Bukhari. Bukhari died in the year 256. So from 235, the previous one, to 256. And his compilation of hadith has 251 hadith about the Dajjal. And then Imam Muslim, who died in the year 261. So sometime after Imam Bukhari. And his compilation of a hadith have 60 hadith in it, the most amount. And they asked this question, well, Imam Malik, who only mentioned 4 hadith about the Dajjal, did he know of all of these 60 hadith that Muslim mentions in his compilation of hadith? So they try to say from this that the concept of the Dajjal is something that developed over the ages, and that these muhaddithin and so on, they fabricated these hadith and put them in the compilations, and they are the ones who foster this complete fabrication of a fictitious character and so on upon the Muslims. Now, if they reject these scholars of Islam, it also means that they reject almost all of the other scholars of Islam, because it is not only them, right? It is Imam Abu Hanifa, it is Imam Shafi'i, it is Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, it is all of the other Imams who existed in those days for the first 300 years or so of the Islamic era, after the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All of these scholars, the vast majority of them speak about the Dajjal. And so it is not only that we have authentic hadith, and these people are accusing these Imams like Bukhari and Muslim of fabricating these hadith. The meticulous studies that they did in order to compile a hadith, and the amount of a hadith that they rejected because they did not come up to the criteria that they had for accepting hadith as authentic and so on, right? They forget all of that scholarship of these scholars, and they accuse them of fabrication. So that is enough to tell you that these people have no good intention in them. They have no good intention in them if they reject all of these early scholars of Islam. These are the ones from whom we understand the deen. They are the ones who have commented on these. They would have. It means to say that they would have rejected other later scholars like Imam al-Nawawi and so on. We know how famous Imam al-Nawawi is, right? With his Riyadh al-Salihin and the 40 hadith, which the Sheikh Mateen started to explain from last night, and so on. They commented on these hadith. So Imam al-Nawawi and all of these other scholars, they believed and they accepted these hadith as being authentic. Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, who is the most famous commentator on Sahih al-Bukhari, Imam Hajar al-Asqalani, and his commentary on al-Bukhari runs into volumes. 20, 30, when you print it, the printed commentary of Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani on al-Bukhari runs into about 20 volumes or so, more than that. Right? And they have none of them have denied these hadith concerning the Dajjal. So those who reject the concept of the Dajjal are rejecting all of these scholars, are saying that the earlier ones who fabricated these hadith, and then the later ones perhaps accepted them, and whatever they say about them, that is all false. So a large part of the scholarship of these scholars, they rejected almost completely. Since we find these people in existence today, and there are a lot of people all over the world, so-called Muslims, who deny the concept of the Dajjal, and many of them will argue with you and try to put forward some of these reasons and so on. I decided to bring them forth so that we can understand, what position we are in. And when these people, when we encounter them and they start putting forward their arguments that these are hadith are not authentic and so on, you can show them in some basic way. You don't have to go into a lot of details and so on. You can just ask them the question, are you rejecting all of these scholars of the past who believed and accepted those hadith to be authentic, and even said that these hadith are mutawatir? They are mutawatir. They reached such a high level of transmission that it is a topic that you cannot deny. It is mentioned so clearly in hadith, you cannot deny it. Either you deny a hadith completely and you reject all of these scholars, or you accept them. Which position are you in? As Muslims, we take our deen from these scholars, from these earlier scholars. Right? So to reject them is like rejecting our deen completely. And I will conclude with that. Any questions? As you see, this is not even mentioning all of the hadith and how do we understand and interpret them and so on, right?
Dajjal will be
Yes.
a human being.
No.
Dajjal will be a human being.
Yes, I did not go into those things, but yes, the scholars are more united about this matter. From the hadith are clear on this matter, that the Dajjal is a human being. He is from Bani Adam, one of the descendants of Adam, right? In Bani Adam, one of the descendants of Adam, one of the children of Adam. So he is a human being. And there are many other descriptions of the Dajjal, which of course I don't want to go into now. We have to leave that, for another time. But it would be interesting, to know those hadith, know the description of the Dajjal. Although we don't really have to know all of them, but what is important for us is that we should, if the Dajjal comes in this time, we don't know how quickly, although the conclusion that scholars have come to is that the Dajjal will appear only after the state of Israel has come to an end. We don't know how quickly that can occur. That can occur overnight. You see that the events that are happening in the Middle East now are bringing about a change, and when these changes occur, they can be so swift you don't even realize it, but the whole situation in the Middle East has changed. And the recognition that Trump has given to those Israeli settlements, the Jewish settlements in Palestine, that's a very big event, a big situation, right? He recognized the entire world has considered, up to this day, has considered those events to be, those settlements to be illegal, right? Against international law. And now he comes up and says, no, we recognize it. It is not against international law. So very quickly, the Jews are reaching the peak, or Israel really. It's not all Jews that are, supporting the state of Israel. So we have to be clear about that. The Zionists, and so they are very quickly reaching the pinnacle of their power. Maybe this could perhaps be it, right? That they're reaching now the height of their power, because now all of their settlements in Palestine are being recognized and so on. So how much more power can they have than that, right? Allahu A'lam, Allah knows best, right? So when they reach the highest, then that is the time for them to fall, right? That is the time for the decline to come. And it can happen very, very swiftly. So we don't know how quickly it will occur and how quickly the Dajjal can come, perhaps in our lifetimes. Allahu A'lam, only Allah knows. So we have to, the most important thing for us is to seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the Dajjal, from the fitna of the Dajjal. To ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for protection, to recite Surah Al-Kahf and so on, follow the instructions that the hadith tell us how to protect ourselves. We don't have to know all of the details, but it is interesting nevertheless to know those details because the hadith mentioned them. But that point that he is a human being, yes, he is a human being, and any other interpretation that he is not a human being and so on, that is not correct. That is not correct.
Is Isa alayhi salam the only one who can slay him?
Yes, Isa alayhi salam. You can see that Al-Masih, Isa alayhi salam is called Al-Masih for a specific reason. The Dajjal is called Al-Masih also for a specific reason. And these are the two who will eventually be facing each other, right? And one will kill the other. The Dajjal is the one who is going to be killed by Isa alayhi salam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preserved the life of Isa alayhi salam for so many centuries just for this situation to occur. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.